Okay, I want to do a little video on judging others. And this is my little 2 cents. Take it for what it is. I don't claim to have any special ability here interpreting this, but you may find it valuable. Okay? Because this judging thing is really out of control online. Really out of control. So first of all, we're all guilty of judging other people. Okay? Everybody's guilty of it. And Christ himself talked about this. Now online, people judge each other in the comments constantly. Someone makes a video, you didn't look a certain way, you didn't say things a certain way, and they make assumptions. Okay? Now, you can judge what's done, a behavior, but you really don't know the motive of a person. You really don't know, because you can't read hearts. You're not Padre Pio. But maybe you are. Maybe one of you out there is Padre Pio. But most of you are not. I can't read a person's heart. So we make these mistakes. Now, let me just read what Jesus said in Matthew chapter 7, okay, lines 1 to 15. Now, this is from the Sermon on the Mount, right? A very important little speech Jesus gave, little teaching, I should say. Judge not, that you may not be judged. For with what judgment you judge, you shall be judged. And with what measure you mete, it shall be measured to you again. And why seest thou the mote that is in thy brother's eye, and seest not the beam that is in thy own eye? Or how sayest thou to thy brother, let me cast the mote out of thy eye, and behold, a beam is in thy own eye? Thou hypocrite, cast out first the beam out of thy own eye, and then shalt thou see to cast out the mote out of thy brother's eye. And what Jesus means here is that the way you judge others, you're going to be judged by God. Okay? So be careful. All right? And he's saying, you want to go, there's all these goody goods, like these born agains, they want to save everybody. Everybody's got to be born again. Everybody has to say the magic born again prayer. And, if you're a Catholic, you're going to hell because you worship Mary and you worship the Pope. And, we're all pagans and all this utter rubbish, okay, that they spit out. But they never look at what they do. Their idolatry towards a country in the Middle East that they worship, the people that live there that they worship, okay? The ridiculous, rapture that's not even true, okay? All this nonsense that they believe. But they don't look at what's in their eye, right? I don't care if they can believe whatever they want, but don't stop judging Catholics and stop judging the Catholic faith in a negative way. Does the church have problems? Yeah, the church has problems right now. Absolutely. The church is at war with tradition, the Vatican, I should say. This is a huge problem. There's something wrong there. It's been infiltrated, obviously. You could disagree with me, but stop judging the Catholic faith, okay? Because the faith is holy. So, now, I'm guilty of this, thinking that you're going to correct somebody. Meanwhile, you're the one that needs correction, right? I look at myself and I say, well, I'm not perfect. No way in heck am I perfect. So if I make a video and it doesn't come out perfect or it's not perfect, well, that's just the way it is, because I'm not perfect. And you're not perfect, who's listening to it. So therefore, knock it off, right? Knock it off. Look at the imperfections in you. Now, if you can judge if I'm trying to do an honest job, a sincere job, well then, that makes a difference. because a person is trying to do something good. I'm not making any money out of this. This is done for the holy souls. That's why I do this. Whatever merit comes from this, let it go to them. That's why this is done. And because I got tired of, born agains telling judging Catholics and then Catholics leaving the faith because they don't even know their own faith. So maybe in some way this helps. Because a lot of Catholics do not know their own faith. And they leave because they listen to these people who don't even know what they're talking about. They don't know the Bible. They don't, they'll quote the Bible, but they don't know the original languages and what it really means. So then they mess people up in the head. And then they got to run around and convert everybody and straighten everybody out because they know, they're the Karen in the room and everybody has to be straightened out. All the Catholics have to be straightened out because we're all going to hell because, we're not doing the right thing. This is judging others. This is judging us. I don't want to judge those people. But when they attack me, I have to speak up. Okay? Because it's an attack. But I can't possibly know what's in their hearts. And I've said it to them. I don't know how you feel about Jesus or how you worship him. That's your business. And how dare you say a Catholic worships Mary? How do you know what they're feeling inside their heart? Right? How do you know? You don't know. And that's the point. That's the point. It's like when people say stuff about, things that happened centuries ago, slavery or all these things. They make judgments about everybody that lived back then. Everybody did this. Everybody did that. How do you know? You don't know anything. So you can't even make a judgment. I can't even make a judgment about something that happened like in a room that I was in because I don't know what the person was thinking. That's what Jesus is trying to say. You really don't know, do you, what's in a person's heart? You absolutely not. And that, no, wait, I'm going to come back to that, but I want to read another quote from John because I wanted to tell you a little story. Now, I'm just saying what's coming to my mind, so forgive me if it's all over the place. John 7:24. John 7:24. This is the Gospel of John. He says right here, judge not according to appearances, but judge just judgment. I remember a long time ago, I was walking in the woods, and it was really, not like a deep woods, not a wilderness. It was just the woods, like in a suburban area. And this older woman with this middle-aged guy was walking in the woods, and, I said hello just to be polite. And she said hello, and the guy did not say hello. Me, in my little egocentric way, because I was judging, right? I was immature in judging, spiritually immature, and I was judging. And I said, well, that was rude. He's rude. He's a rude person, Blah, blah, blah. So anyway, I went on my merry way, thinking that I was justified in what I was thinking. And then, I don't know, about 45 minutes later, I see them again. And they're walking in the woods, and the mother was a mother. This was the guy's mother, which I found out later. And she said something to me, and then she's talking to the guy, and the guy opens his mouth, and the man was, I don't know, you can't use certain terms today, but like mentally challenged, if you know what I'm saying. The man had the body of a 45-year-old, but had the mind of a 12-year-old. No wonder why he didn't say hello. I was so humiliated. Not, of course, this woman didn't know what was going on in my head, but I felt humiliated in my heart. I almost wanted to cry. That I had the audacity to judge this guy and assume that he was a rude jerk when, in fact, he was mentally challenged. I had no right to judge that person. It's like at work sometimes. People don't say hello or whatever. Well, sometimes people don't feel well. They have things going on in their minds. They have a financial loss, or they lost a loved one, or they're worried. So, not everyone's going to act the way you want them to act and do what you want them to do, because they can't sometimes. People have limits. So that's why Jesus says, judge with righteous judgment. And think, well, maybe there's another motive. Now, look, that's not to say that we shouldn't judge, behaviors, like behaviors of evil government, okay? Because governments, a lot of them are pure evil. And if we think American government is like, good, you're naive, okay? Because no government is good. Only God is good. And Jesus said that himself. Only God is good. No government is good. It's a human institution. It's got a problem, many problems. So my point is that we have to realize this, and we can judge that behavior. But sometimes, there are things going on with people, the way they act, and I would reserve this for people in your own life, people you interact. I don't interact with politicians and movie stars and all these kind of people, but the people next to me, sometimes people are having a bad day, and they don't feel good. And then sometimes people are selfish. They are selfish. They are evil, and they do bad things. People kidnap people. People murder people. I'm not saying you don't judge and say, well, maybe this guy wants to, attack me. I'm not saying that. That you should, be on your guard. Be careful. But I think what Jesus means here is that when you're going to judge people, you have to look at the motive. The motive here. What's the motive here, right? Is it just, and is there something I'm not getting here? Something I'm not understanding? And I wasn't understanding what that guy was and what his mindset was, And if someone at work is not feeling good or they have a struggle going on, they don't say hello to me. So what? They're disturbed. They're upset. I'm going to let my ego be hurt because they didn't say hello to me? I mean, come on. That's childish. It's spiritually immature, too. And that's what Christ is saying. And also that the way you judge others, you're going to be judged. And that you look at other people and you point out all their faults. What about your faults? Like I know people that, they blame their parents because, they had a rough upbringing, or, I'm messed up because of my parents. Well, look, at a certain age, you have to take control of your mind and start to heal the damage that's done, move forward, and then say, well, you know what, my parents weren't perfect, and neither am I. Because you've fallen, you've stumbled too. Okay? Or, I was in a bad marriage and now I'm messed up. And look, nobody's perfect. No, I'm not telling you to dismiss it or to let it go completely, and that that it didn't happen. But there has to be forgiveness, which we know as Catholics, that has to happen. At some point, you have to forgive and move forward. You have to. Christ, God the Father and Christ, they demand it of you. Because if you don't forgive others, you're not going to be forgiven. It says it right in the Bible. That's scary. You got to do it. It's got to be done. So then you have to say, well, I'm not perfect as well. I screw up. I've screwed up. So stop trying to be a Karen and fix the world and run around like goody two-shoes and tell everybody how they should behave in church and how they should. Because I've seen this in church. The crazy woman comes over and tries to instruct everybody, how they should be in church. Don't talk, don't say this, don't say that. Blah, blah. Well, maybe you should mind your business and, go in the corner over there and just stop judging other people. Like you're the only one that's going to be holy in the church. I mean, it's absurd. But this is what people do. This is the human struggle. And it's okay. It's okay to struggle with this, because struggling, gains us merit as we win the battles. They're inner battles, and we have them every day, and they have to be fought and eventually won. If you had no inner struggles, you're not growing spiritually. Okay, it's that simple. If everything's like, well, I don't struggle with any of my passions, whether it's lust or greed or whatever it is, well, then you're not really growing. You should be struggling with those things to keep them under control. That means you're growing spiritually. And being able to restrain your judgment at times until you really have a complete picture of things, that's spiritual maturity. When Jesus judges us, he looks at our heart, our motives. That's the only judgment you can make, the motive of the person. A person could say something that sounds really off. It could sound really off. But their motive may have been good. They may have meant it out of love, but it just came out wrong because they're not a good speaker, or they're not eloquent, or they were confused, or they were feeling sick, or whatever. But their heart was in the right place. So we have to look at the heart, what the motive is. Because the reason I mention this is because people just judge online. You know, I'm a voice online. You don't know my face. I'm a voice, right? So you judge people online. You judge their videos. You tear them apart. I'm not saying you do it personally, but you see this online all the time. They just tear other people apart. It's awful behavior. It's atrocious. They act like bullies and horrible things they say just because, you know, you can't see them in person. Because they probably get punched in the face half the time if they said what they said in public. But Christ says, you know, we as Christians should be acting better. And you know, nobody's perfect making a video. Sometimes they have crappy motives. It's just, you know, clickbait and all this kind of stuff. I certainly don't have that. I don't have clickbait. Some people may find all this boring. And they want to go watch, you know, cat videos. But the point is, think about those quotes that I read. Ask God to show you, what do you mean by this? And you'll see that from what I get out of it is we have to judge correctly, and that means the heart, the motive, because that's what God, I think, wants us to do. And correct yourself first. You cannot correct others if you're not correct. I can't guide a young person in a proper way if I'm not corrected. If I'm a drunk or a drug addict, how am I going to tell a young person, you know, you shouldn't do drugs when I'm a drug addict? I have to win the battle in me first, then guide them, because I won. So I know what I'm talking about. Take the log out of your own eye, and then you can help the person who's in front of you correct their lives, if they want the help. Anyway, I hope this helped you in some way. I hope it's valuable in some way. Let me know. Thank you.